This is question 21. Here we're asked to sketch the graph of negative x squared minus 3x plus 5, showing the coordinates of the turning point and the coordinates of any intercepts with the coordinate axes. So the first thing to do here is to recognise what type of graph it is that we need to sketch. And we can look at this equation and we can see that this is a quadratic. And specifically, it is a negative quadratic. So what that means in terms of the shape is that we are going to have an upside down U shape. Now, if I just think about this for a moment, and we're just going to sketch a quick set of axes. If I sketch an upside down U shape, like so, that's not very good, but you get the idea. If I sketch an upside down U shape, the points that it's asking for are anywhere where it intercepts the coordinate axes, so the x-axis and the y-axis. So it's asking for where does it cut through the x-axis and where does it cut through the y-axis. It's also asking for the coordinates of the turning point. So that just means the maximum point in this case on our graph. So with that in mind, the first thing we're going to deal with is the turning point. So we're going to look at this turning point to begin with, and to do this we're just going to write out the equation. So it's y equals negative x squared minus 3x plus 5. Now in order to work out the turning point, this point, the maximum point on this graph, I have to complete the square for the quadratic. So in order to do that, to complete the square, what I need to have is a positive x squared. So I want my coefficient of x squared to be 1. So in order to do that, so to begin with, I'm going to take out a factor of negative 1 from this equation. So what I can say is that negative 1 multiplied by x squared multiplied by positive 3x multiplied by negative 5, that if I were to multiply out this bracket, that would equal negative x squared minus 3x plus 5. So what I'm then going to do is I'm going to complete the square with this part inside the bracket. So I've got negative and then multiplied by, and let's complete the square. So to complete the square, all I have to do is take the middle term, the coefficient of x, and half that. And I'm going to say that this is going to be x plus 1.5 squared. Then, so I've just halved that middle term, halved the coefficient of x, and said that this is x plus 1.5 all squared. Then that minus 5 is going to stay as it is. And I also need to subtract the square of the term that I just halved. So I'm going to subtract 1.5 squared. So this is completing the square. And if you're not familiar with this, then I would suggest that you go back and watch a video that I've probably got on my YouTube channel about completing the square. So we have completed the square here, and all that's left for us to do, and just to kind of reiterate here, if I was to now expand this and simplify it, it would come back to x squared plus 3x minus 5. So what I've written here, x squared plus 3x minus 5, that is exactly the same as x plus 1.5 all squared minus 5 minus 1.5 squared. All that's left for me to do is to just tidy this up a little bit. And so that's going to give me negative, and then I've got x plus 1.5 all squared, then minus, and I've got minus 5 minus 1.5 squared. So that's going to give me minus 1.5 squared is going to give me 2.25. And so that's going to give me minus 7.25. So minus 7.25. Okay, so we have written this out, we've completed the square. Now the reason that we've done that is so that we can find out what the turning point of the graph is going to be. And the way that this allows us to do this is that because now what we've got is we've got a square term minus this number 7.25, that what I can say is that and remembering as well that this is the negative, so actually what we're saying is that is minus multiplied by minus 7.25. So the highest value that y could possibly be is simply going to be the value when this bracket is equal to 0. So if I kind of follow this through, so if I say that x is equal to negative 1.5, that would make that bracket equal to 0. So minus 1.5 plus 1.5 squared, that means that that would be 0 squared. And which means that my maximum point is going to be the value of y when x equals minus 1.5. So this is going to be minus 0 squared minus 7.25. And so that is going to give me a y value of 7.25. So I've got my turning point is x equals minus 1.5 and y equals 7.25. The reason for this, and just to reiterate here, is that if I were to imagine any other value of x, that would give me a smaller value of y. I'm not going to demonstrate this now, but if you're not sure, pause the video, take some other values of x, and what you will see is that they will not give you a value of y which is as high as 7.25. Okay, so that's our first point. We've got our turning point, and we'll just list this over here. So our maximum point in this case is going to be minus 1.5, 7.25. Then what I'm going to need to work out is what the values of the coordinates which intercept the x and y axis. So in order to do this, what I need to think about is the fact that these coordinates here are going to be the coordinates when y equals 0. So if you think about the coordinate here, we're going to have those two coordinates there. We can think of this axis, the x-axis, as being y equals 0, because all of the coordinates along that axis end with 0. So if you were to take, say, this coordinate here, you would call that and say that that was 1. That is the coordinate 1, 0. Okay, if you were to take this coordinate here and say that that was, I don't know, minus 6, then that coordinate just there would be negative 6, 0. So what we can then say is, okay, well, I need to work out what value of x is going to give me y equals 0. So all that I need to do is say substitute 0 in for y over here. So 0 is going to be equal to, and we're going to use this. 0 is equal to negative x plus 1.5 all squared minus 7.25. So we're just going to take that, and we are now going to solve what we've got here. So we've got an equation in terms of x, and we've set y equal to 0, because as we saw, we want to figure out the value of x when y equals 0 so that we can find the points at which it crosses the x-axis. And so to start with this, I'm going to first of all get rid of this factor of -1 that I've had the whole time. So I'm going to divide through by -1, and that's just going to give me 0 will be equal to x plus 1.5 all squared minus 7.25. Then, if I now follow this through and start solving it, I'm going to bring the negative 7.25 over to this side of the equal sign. So that's going to give me 7.25 equals x plus 1.5 all squared. And then next step, get rid of the squaring, so square root. So now I've got the square root of 7.25 is going to be equal to x plus 1.5. And then lastly, what I can then do is I can then say that this is going to be, x is going to be equal to negative 1.5 plus or minus the square root of 7.25. So this gives us our two coordinates, negative 1.5 plus or minus the square root of 7.25. So that gives us the point at which the graph cuts through the x-axis. So let's jot those two coordinates down as well. So we've got minus 1.5 plus the square root of 7.25, 0. So that was one of our coordinates. And then the other coordinate is going to be negative 1.5 minus the square root of 7.25, 0. All that's then left for us to do, so we've now got our turning point, we've got these two coordinates where the graph cuts through the x-axis, and now we just need to figure out, well, where does the graph cut through the y-axis? Now in the same way that we called x, y equals 0, we can also call the y-axis x equals 0. So we just need to figure out what that coordinate will be. Now this is far simpler than figuring out the coordinates where the graph cuts through the x-axis, because all I have to do is substitute x equals 0 into the equation. So I'm going to use this rewritten version of this equation, but I could use any of these forms that I've written here. I could just substitute it in to there, and in fact that's probably the easiest way to do it. So x is equal to 0, so that is going to give me y will be equal to 0 squared minus 3 times 0 plus 5. So that means that y is going to be equal to 5 when x is equal to 0. So all that's left for me now to do is to write that final coordinate down, which is 0, 5. And then I'm going to sketch my graph. So I'm going to delete some of the work we did earlier, so make a bit of space. And let's draw this graph. So we've got our y-axis and our x-axis. Then we've got a maximum point at negative 1.57.25, and then the following coordinates. So let's jot these down. So let's start with this one, 0, 5. And again, it's just a sketch, so we're going to say that that is 5 there. That's going to be one of our points. And now let's take a look at this coordinate here. So let's plot this point. We've got negative 1.5 plus root 7.25, 0. So negative 1.5 plus the square root of 7.25, that's going to be, so the square root of 7.25 is going to be between 2 and 3. So we're looking at about an answer of about 1 there. So we're going to write it just here. And that is going to give us, so we're just going to write that down, minus 1.5, yeah, about 1 I think is right. So minus 1.5 plus the square root of 7.25. So that's going to give us another of our points. Let's plot this point as well, negative 1.5 minus 7.25. So that's going to be, again, so that's going to be about minus 4, isn't it? So around here somewhere, we'll write that down. So minus 1.5. So minus 1.5 minus the square root of 7.25. And then our last point, so we've got 3 of our coordinates where they cut through the coordinate axes. All that's left for us to now do is also plot this point, minus 1.5, 7.25. So that is going to be halfway between these points, about here. So minus 1.5 is going to be there. And then it needs to go to a height of 7.25, which we'll call, say, up here. And we'll mark a point there. So now I'm going to attempt to sketch this as best as I can, obviously. As you can see, I'm not the neatest with this pen, but I'll try my best. And it needs to go through there up to a maximum point at 7.25, and then going through that point there at 5, and then back down. So that would be our final answer. And obviously there's a lot of work gone into getting to this point, but hopefully what we've gone through there kind of makes sense.